Alright, so today we're doing an LS430. This is a 2000 to 2003 into an IS200 using a J160 gearbox, and it's completely plug and play. So let's get into it. Right, so as discussed, this is a LS430 00003, so 2003. That means it's the 5-speed model. We can tell that straight away because on the throttle body here, we'll have a 4-pin TPS plug and a 2-wire drive-by-wire motor plug. All right, so what we're going to do first of all is we're going to go through the entire layout so the customer knows exactly where everything plugs in. Then what we're going to do is we're going to jump into all the testing that we're going to do. So let's start off with the ECU box over here. So you've got your actual ECU. Now, just for information purposes, this is an IS200 ECU box. These were designed for a rectangular case. So you'll see here that this lip on the 3UZ actually catches on the box. Now you can grind this lip down. If you are going to grind the lip down, then all you got to do is remove the 4 screws in the back. You can take the ECU actually physically out of the case, then do the grinding, and it'll slide straight in. If you're lucky enough to have a IS300 ECU box, this ECU will drop straight into that. So if you can get your hands on one of those, you don't have to do any modifications whatsoever, and everything else fits exactly as it should. Okay, so moving on from there, you've got your 5 plugs that go into your ECU, the 3 ones that are mainly for your engine harness. We've got the 2 that interface with the body plugs on the IS200, so that's your 22 and your 28 pin plug, which plug directly into this resin here, so no cutting or anything required, plug straight in. Then we've got your body plugs over here. Now in this case, we have reused some from the 3UZ, so we've got the white plug which goes into the grey plug. We've got the black plug which goes into the black plug, and then we've got the white plug that goes into the blue plug. So originally the IS200 in this particular case was an auto, so it was missing that plug, so obviously we've just supplied that plug because he's now going with a J160 manual. All right, so going on from there, you've then got your grommet, or nearly missed out. So we do have a tacho converter device because, as you know, we remap the ECUs now. So we actually change the MPX data that's transmitted to the vehicle. So therefore it interacts with the IS200 or 300 or Altezza exactly as it should. So the only downside is this gives off a 4-cylinder tacho signal. So we do have to convert that with one of these devices over here. And that'll then change the 4-cylinder to a 6-cylinder so the gauge cluster stays happy. Right, so grommet, which goes directly in over there, so that's all fine. It's going to follow up along here, and then we're going to get to the piece of plastic that's over here. So this one is bolted on here and here, so hopefully you still have the screws left over from when you took the harness off. Now what we're going to do is we're going to quickly go down this section over here of the harness, and then we're going to go that way. So just coming down here as well, you've got your first little breakout over there, and that's to injector 1 and coil 1. Further up along here, you've got your breakout over here. And now that's going to go, the first one is your oil control valve for the left bank over there. And then also coming out there is your 4-pin plug for your TPS sensor on your throttle body. You'll see there's a little metal bracket over there. So in this case, I've just cable tied that on there to keep that nice and neat. Following on down there, we're going to have a breakout over here, which then goes to your cam sensor over there. All right. You see you've got little clips over there and over there that you can secure the harness to. And coming down to here, we're going to break out, and it's going to go to the AC plug. All right. Now, just remember, an LS430 aircon pump had a PWM controlled solenoid on the back that was controlled by the climate control ECU inside the car. So although we've put all the wiring in for an aircon pump, you can't physically use the LS430 aircon pump. So if you do want aircon, you can replace it with a multitude of aircon pumps, even 1UZ non-VVT-i. But if you want to keep it more modern, you can use a 1UZ VVT-i, so from LS400 98 to 2000. You can use a GS430, so it's 2000 to 2005, or you can use an SC430 01 to 05. Any years after that for the GS or the SC, that's going to then fall into the category where they had almost zero control for the AC, and it was literally just a solenoid on the back that changed the effectiveness of the pump. All right. Coming down along there, now it's going to break up inside the harness here, which is going to come off and go to the oil pump, oil switch, which is going to be here. So in this particular case, the customer's fitting his LS430 engine into an IS200. So he is going to swap out this mid/rear sump for a front sump. and he's going to have to change this oil filter housing for the one that points backwards, which again comes off either an LS400 98-2000, again also a GS430 2000 to 2005, and SC430 01-05, but we are going to put the customer in touch with someone that can help him with those particular parts that he needs. All right, so once it comes down here, it goes through this little cavity over here. So you see it goes inside that hole there, down through that cavity there, pops out the bottom here, and in our case it's going straight to the crank sensor there, and then to the oil pressure switch over there. But in his case, it'll obviously come out here and go to the oil pressure switch that goes down there. Right, so that's this little front section done over there. So what we'll do now is we'll move over to where the harness carries on from there. So looking at this one, you've got this little section which is over there all covered up. Then we come to the next piece of plastic that's bolted down over there and bolted down over there. So again, hopefully you've kept the bolts in there for when you took the harness off, and that'll be a nice straightforward put it back together. The first section, the breakouts over here, we've got three things. So we've got injector 3 and we've got coil 3. We also have the cam sensor for the left bank. Coming further along here, we've got the next breakout point here, and that has injector 5 and coil 5, and also the noise filter plug-in. So there's a little gray sort of device that's screwed onto the inlet manifold here, and that plugs directly into that. So just do that when you get it on your side. Coming further down there, we've got the last breakout for this little plastic box, and that comes down and it goes to injector 7 and coil 7. So it's really nice and straightforward. You've got 1, 2, 3 breakouts. You've got injector 1, you've got your 3 injectors, you've got your 3 coils. So the only thing to remember is you've got your cam there and you've got your noise filter there, and that only has the 2 breakout points over there. Moving along, we've then got this section which is taped up down here going into the plastic bit that goes at the back of the engine here. So this has 2 places where it mounts. So looking down here, you've got your bolt over there, and looking over there, you've got your bolt over there. So again, these are little bolts, 10mm sockets, 10mm socket for all of these bolts, and they will screw down and secure this black piece of plastic at the back here. First breakout that you've got over here is coming down here, and that's where you have your gearbox harness coming out, and in our case we're just running it over here, and you'll see we've got the breakout for the reverse switch over there. Coming along here, we've got the 3-wire speed sensor for the J160. All right, next thing coming out here, we've got the earth strap. So it's a little ring terminal there, again using an M6 bolt on the top here. So you'd see you do have a hole down here, and you do have a hole over there, but you're looking for the small top one over there. That's where this earth strap is going to go. Then finally coming out the back here, you're going to have your lambda sensor. So hopefully you can see down inside there. There's the plug over there. Now do bear in mind there was a heat shield here. Please, if you can, refit that, because that's going to keep your plug lasting a long time. If not, it's going to have the heat from the exhaust going directly against it, and it's really not going to last that long. So please fit that heat shield back over there. All right, coming further on the black piece of plastic, we then have the connector which goes down to the sub harness that goes under the inlet manifold, and that connects to your knock sensor and to your starter motor over there. And if you wait till the end, you'll see the photographs of how that all looks. Pay close attention, because the 2 knock sensors, you've got the one with the gray wire, and that goes onto bank 2, so the right hand side. So again, we're looking from the engine from this side, so that's the right bank, that's the left bank. So the one with the gray wire goes to the right bank, the one with the black wire goes to the left bank, but you'll see in the photographs that I have taken photographs detailing that in particular. All right, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to run over that side, but before I do that, again, you've got your main power starter cable which pops out, and you're going to connect that straight to the positive on your battery terminal. All right, nice and simple. And while I'm here, your alternator is going to connect onto there. It's going to run along there, along the subframe, and then your alternator is obviously over here, and then it bolts on there where you see that gray cover over there. All right, so let's pop around while I'm going my way already. All right, so coming down along here, you're going to have a breakout down here at the bottom. So this is one of the first wires that we've added in. So you've got your earth strap, which again goes to the top M6 hole. The bottom M8 hole is not used in this particular case, but what you can do is you can actually connect an earth strap from there to what your earthing point would be, which is just over here. So normally you'd have that long metal tube over here that carries the vacuum to the inlet manifold on the 1G. You can actually remove that, but there's a nice little earthing point there. It's very difficult to see with the engine in the way, but there's a bolt hole about here, and you can run an earth strap and drop it down to the M8 hole over there, no problem at all. The second thing that comes out of here, now that's going to be your pedal harness. So in other words, this is a 6-pin DTM plug, and there plugs into there and goes to over here. So what you can do is you can take that plug and you can bring it through the original accelerator cable hole over there. It's about 70 centimeters long, and we measure there should be plenty length for you to get that in there and then bring it down and plug it straight into your pedal. So this is the pedal that's going to come with your harness, okay? And we're going to use this for testing purposes to make sure everything is 100%. All right, so that's going to take us to the end of the plastic over there. As soon as we get to the end of the plastic, we're going to break out for injector 8 and coil 8. Then it's going to come a little bit further along and break out here. We're going to break out to the ACIS, all right? Then we're going to break out to injector 6, which is just underneath there, and coil 6. It's going to come a little bit further along and break out over here, and then it's going to go to the cam sensor for the right bank. It's going to go to injector 4 and coil 4. You'll also notice that there are holes in the fuel rail there and there, so you can use some P-clamps just to hold that up over there. We're going to carry on further along here, and then, oh, I nearly forgot there, you've got another noise filter, which again is going to bolt onto the inlet manifold. And you're just going to plug that straight into there where it bolts on the inlet manifold. All right, tuck that right there for now. All right, coming down to the front, then we're going to have another breakout here, which goes to injector 2, coil 2, also goes to your coolant temperature sensor over there. You'll have a bolt in there, not a temp sensor. This is something I've fitted for when we do harnesses that require a temp sensor for a separate gauge. And then you've also got your drive-by-wire motor plug, which goes up to over there and plugs straight into your throttle. Then we've got your oil control valve for your right bank, which plugs in there. Then the harness is going to carry on down here, and then you're going to see the next breakout point there. That's going to come up there, and that's going to go to your mass airflow sensor. So this is the kind of mass airflow sensor that you should have. So make sure you've got this little small one, not the big chunky ones that come on the one you said VVT-i. Different wiring, don't swap them around. All right. Then the harness comes down over here. Sorry, this light is very bright. I'm trying to get it light properly. Then it's going to stop and break out over here, and that's going to go to your alternator plug, which goes in the back of the alternator there. It's also going to go to your low oil level sensor. So we've moved that over to this side because it'll be on this side of the sump on when you have the front sump on there. So that's all taken care of. And then if we look back down here, there is your lambda sensor plug. So we're only running the 2 lambdas on this one, just the ones that go in the exhaust manifolds themselves. We're not running the secondary ones. The secondary ones have been mapped out completely. All right, so that is the complete layout of where everything goes. So hopefully that makes it really nice and simple for when you come to install it. So what I'm going to go do now is get all the stuff ready. Then we're going to come back, carry out all the testing, including starting the engine. So bear with me a second and I'll be right back with you. All right, so now we got into the testing portion of this particular video, but there's going to be 2 lots of tests that we're going to run out, or 2 conditions that we're going to test under. The first is going to be kind of just with the ignition on, and we'll be testing a few things. The second is with the engine actually running, and then we're going to be testing a few things there. So I'm going to go through those now so you have an outlay of exactly what we're going to do. So starting from here, we're going to make sure the ambient temperature works. So that's this little temperature gauge that displays up over here. We'll make sure that that's reading correctly. In this case, the ECU is reading the ambient temperature, so it will tell you accurately what the temperature is outside, well, at least behind your bumper. Then we're going to come to the dash and we're going to look at the charge light, the oil pressure light, and the check engine light. So we're going to make sure that all the cluster is firing up and working as it should. Then what we're going to do is we're going to pop over there, we're going to bridge the reverse switch, which is what your gearbox will do on the J160, and we'll get the beeping noise to indicate that it's in reverse from here. What I will say, Stuart, is that your car originally was an auto, so you should still get the beeping, and when you do put it in reverse, your reverse light should pop up on your display over there. All right. Okay, and once we've done that, then what we're going to do is we're going to test the speedo over there. So we're going to feed a signal to make sure it works. And Stuart, in your case, your car IS200 was originally an auto, so your speed is actually coming from your ABS ECU. Now, I have fitted that plug over there with the main reason being that I know a lot of you guys like to at some stage possibly sell the ECU and the harness on. And so I've put everything in to make sure that you're not limiting yourself to only being able to sell to someone with a auto IS200. So just bear that in mind. So that should be nice and simple. So the speed sensor in your case is actually going to do nothing at all. Your speed is coming directly from the ABS ECU, but I want to make sure that is working. If you ever wanted to sell the harness and somebody bought it with a manual IS200, we make sure everything works. Okay, once we've done that, then we're going to come to the OBD2 test. So that's just going to make sure that my machine is communicating it, make sure that it is picking up that it is an LS430, and most importantly, this is plugged in directly to where your OBD2 plug is in your driver's footwell. So there's nothing fancy. We haven't added an extra plug. It's just going to plug an OBD2 machine directly into where you would normally do it to read all the codes and the live data. All right. Then we're going to move on. Once we've got the machine active, we're going to move on and we're going to test the fuel pump. So what I will do while I'm here is I'm going to put a link over there to explain how the fuel pump systems work. So if you want to quickly watch that, go ahead and it'll explain in detail how Toyota and Lexus control their fuel pump systems. But what we're going to do is we're going to activate the fuel pump from the actual OBD2 machine via the ECU, because in this case the ECU is controlling the fuel pump. All right. Then what we're going to do is we're going to move over to the AC system. So there's going to be two tests we're actually going to carry out. One is we're going to be testing the output from the ECU. So as I activate it via the machine, we should hear the AC magnetic clutch relay click. Secondly, what I'm going to do is we're going to look at the live data on the machine. I'm going to press the AC button and we're going to make sure that the ECU is picking up that the AC request has been pressed. All right. Right, so once we've done the AC clutch, that's going to sort of finalize that particular testing with just the ignition on. Then we're going to move over to actually running the engine itself. All right. So what are we testing? First of all, starter circuits. We want to make sure that when you crank the key, the engine actually starts. And we've plugged everything in as though it was an original IS200, so we know everything on your side will work 100%. Next up, we're going to do ACIS, or Acoustic Control Induction System. So what are we looking for? This little valve at the back of the motor will go from open to closed after the engine starts up after a few seconds. And so what we'll do is make sure that that is happening. What I'll do now is I'm going to pop a little link over there as well. I've done a detailed video on the ACIS system, exactly how it works, what it looks like. And what I would advise always is you've got to take off the intake manifold to fit the harness that goes underneath. That is the perfect opportunity to test the solenoid. So you've got your plug over here. One side's power, one side's ground. It is polar. So if you connect 12 volts and ground and you don't hear the relay click, just swap the 12 volts and the ground around. And then if you still don't hear a click, then you know that the solenoid underneath is broken. And in which case, time to replace it before you put the intake back on. So do keep that in mind. It's something to do when you've got the intake off, because you don't want to put the intake on and take it off again when that doesn't work. So please do check that before you put the intake back on. All right. Next up is going to be the drive-by-wire test. So again, that's nice and simple. We've got your pedal hooked up. We're just going to rev it and we'll see that it works 100%. Then next we're going to do the oil control valve test. So that means I'm going to test using my OBD2 machine. I'm going to test the oil control valves for the left and the right bank. So what it's going to do is it's going to retard and advance the cam. So it's going to sound like a lumpy cam engine, and you should pick that up nicely through the sound. And that indicates that both oil control valves are working exactly as they should. Next up, we're going to do injectors and coils. So what am I going to do? I'm going to run around and I'm going to unclip every single injector so we can hear the engine physically misfiring as I do that, so we know that every single cylinder is running exactly as it should. Then we'll pop back over to the cluster and we'll make sure that the tacho is working, and as well as the coolant temp. All right. So I've warmed the engine up already, so I think it's about 60 degrees. So we should actually see that the second when we start looking for the lights, but we'll come back after we've run the engine for that, and we should see it nice and warm there and displaying there. All right. And then what we'll do, which I think is missing off here, I don't know why, we'll go into the machine and we'll show you that there are no codes related to your ECU at all. All right. So we'll make sure that that is okay. So plug and play. So all we're literally going to do is we're going to grab what you would do, your key in your car. We're going to stick it in. We're going to turn it on. All right. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go over and check the ambient temperature. And as we can see there, 15 degrees. So it is displaying exactly as we would want it to. All right. Oh, hang on. I've put the windscreen wipers on there. Oh, there you go. Sorry. All right. So coming over here, you can see we've got our charge light, we've got our oil light, and we've got our check engine light. Now, in your particular car, the only bulb that you want to remove is the TRC bulb, which is very, very easy to do. If you look at the back in here, you'll see all of your bulbs and everything over here. They are actually written what they are. So for instance, that's oil pressure. You see brake over there. You can see door over there. And so what you're looking for is your actual TRC off, which is that one down there, which I've already removed. And I think that's it. Yep. So it's just that little bulb over there. You remove that out, and that's going to stop the annoying flash of the TRC. Because obviously the TRC, the LS400, LS430 had a VSC system, not a TRC system, so they cannot talk to each other, I'm afraid, unfortunately. So that system will not work. All right. So we've tested all of that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go over and we're going to do the reverse light and the speed. So I'm just going to flick this around because we're going to need to be able to see the cluster from that side when I do the speedo. All right. So again, all we're going to do literally is bridge the reverse switch, which is going to make it beep. So if I do that there, so you'll see there, that is obviously beeping, so we know that the reverse is working. All right. So next up we're going to do is the speedo. So what we're going to do is we've got the 3-wire speed sensor plug here. So as I said, Stuart, your speed is coming from your ABS ECU. So this is actually not going to make a difference for you, but we do want to make sure this works in case you ever want to sell the harness onto someone with a manual IS200 and they need to know that this works exactly as it should do. So what are we doing? We've got our little device here that it's the same device that we use to convert the RPM signal for the car. It's got a little test function that I can use, so it's helpful to people to find their speed sensor input around a cluster or their rev counter input behind a cluster. So all I'm going to do basically is power this up from here. So as you can see, it's a 3-wire sensor, which means it's like a Hall effect style sensor. So we've got pin 1 is 12 volts, pin 2 is ground, which comes from the cluster to avoid ground loops, and then we've got the 3rd wire, which is the signal. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the board into test mode. So bear with me a second while I do that. Alright, so you can see now it's in test mode, it's flashing differently on the LED, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the yellow wire, which is the output signal, and I'm going to connect it into the plug over there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it in and out, so you can see 100% that is working exactly as you would expect it to. So in the event that you do ever sell the harness and you do need to give it to someone with a manual IS200, we know everything will work exactly as it should do. And in your vehicle as well, obviously the reverse lights will work as they should do because we've tested that out already. Right, so coming around. So we've done reverse and the speedo, so now let's move on to the OBD2 machine. So I'm just going to get rid of this light, otherwise you've got glaring light on you and it's very difficult to see the screen. So I'm just going to go into the actual OBD2 device. It takes ages to load up, so I'm not going to go through the whole process again, but I'm going to show you there. It is picking up that it is an LS430. At the moment, we're interested in engine and electronically controlled transmission systems. So we're going to go over to, oh, not DTC. So there's no codes there. Right, so we're going to go over to data list here. So we want to make sure that we're actually picking up some data. So you can see there we've got 53 degrees on the coolant, 19 on the air temp, throttle position is at 15%. Okay, so you can see there we are actually picking up that the temperature needle is actually up and above the resting position there. So once we come back to do it, obviously it'll be a lot warmer, so that'll be fine. All right, so now we've got that done. So now we're going to do the fuel pump relay. So we're going to go into active test. There you go. So we've got fuel pump, relay, and fuel pump. If you watched the video earlier, you'll know exactly why that is. So we're going to go into fuel pump. And then 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to move over here so you can hear, because the relay is in that fuse box over there. And hopefully the microphone will pick up the actual fuel pump in the tank at the bottom there. Activating. All right, so that's the fuel pump relay done. So let's move over to the AC clutch. So we're going to go back into active test. Now we're going to go AC magnetic clutch relay. We're going to pop into that one over there. And 1, 2, 3. All right. Now the AC magnetic clutch relay is in that little fuse box down there next to the ECU box. So what I'm going to do, so you can try and hear it, so I'm going to move the camera over there. 1, 2, 3. Right, okay, so that's 100%. So we know the ECU, when it wants to output the signal to turn on the AC magnetic clutch, it will do it. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go into the data list and we're going to scroll down. Right, so you can see there, we've got AC signal and currently it is off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, I'm going to flick the AC button, and you'll see now that AC signal is labeled as being on. So now we know 100% that not only will the ECU output a signal to turn on the AC magnetic clutch relay, but when you press the button, the ECU itself is actually receiving the signal that you would like the AC to switch on. All right. So that's all done on that side over there. So what we're going to do now is move over to actually starting the engine and getting it to work there. So just a quick recap. So we're going to do starter circuit, which is when we started. ACIS, so we're going to check this valve over here. Then we're going to rev it up to make sure the drive-by-wire works. We're going to test the 2 oil control valves. I'm going to pop out all the injectors one by one to make sure that every cylinder is firing correctly. Then we'll come back and make sure that the tacho and the coolant temp is working as we expected. So, plug and play, you just jump in, you turn your key and she's going to start. So 3, 2, 1. Alright, so we know the starter circuit works. We can see the valve has gone down, so that's all good. We're going to give her a little rev. That's all working. Right, let's test those oil control valves. So we're going to go to active test. We're going to go to bank 1. Right, so that's bank 1. Go to bank 2. Out of that. Right, so let's do all the injection and coils. So we'll start here. That's number 8, number 6, number 6, number 4, number 2. Go around the other side. Number 7, number 5, number 3, and number 1. Cool. Alright, so that's that done over there. You're going to see there we've got the tacho working as it should. And it's about right, so about 850, 900, and you'll see it's a bit below 1000 over there. And you'll see now that the coolant temp gauge is actually rising off of there. Okay. Let's just kill it so we can hear ourselves again. Alright, so the engine has been running. You can see there's no check engine light on there. And as you can see, we've got no automatic gearbox wide in. We've got no secondary lambdas wide in. We've got no type of EBAP or anything wide in at all. And if I come back to the OBD2 machine, and we go look at trouble codes, and we see a big fat 0. So that means you've got absolutely no trouble codes at all. So as long as the engine and everything is plugged in and working as it should do, you should have no check engine lights, okay? So if you do get a check engine light, then you do need to read your codes. Now then, unfortunately with the 3UZ, you can't read the codes via bridging TC and E1. That functionality was removed for the 3UZ. It was only left over for the Japanese model 3UZs, but the European and the American versions did not have it. And as a matter of fact, the American version didn't even have it for the 1UZ VVT-i. All right, but the other functions for bridging TC and E1 still remain. So depending on what year your IS200 was, how do you do that? Well, if it was pre-2001, you'll have this diagnostic port on your engine fuse box here, and you'll see E1 and you'll see TC. So if you have a look here, it's that terminal over there is E1, and that middle one over there, that's TC. So you can bridge those two together. That'll put it into diagnostic mode. That will then lock the timing at 10 degrees. So if you do have a feeling that the timing is out, you can check that with the timing light quickly before you even remove any covers at all. Okay, so that all still functions. The only thing that won't function is the actual flashing of the check engine light when you bridge those two terminals. And both vehicles, whether it's 98 to 2001 or 2001 to 2005, you can bridge pin 13 and 4 on the OBD2 port, and that'll put into the diagnostics mode. Otherwise, you will have to get yourself an actual diagnostic machine to plug in, read, look at the live data, and then see what your actual issue is. But the check engine light's off, everything is good, and you're 100%. All right, so I'm happy with everything, Stephen. We're going to get this off in a box, get it off back to you. We're going to get you in touch with that person that's going to help you with the sump and the oil filter, so you can get all of that sorted out as well. You've got the pedal, which you've seen works, that you can mount inside your vehicle, and this one is the nice one where you don't have to worry about it going out of range and shutting the throttle down. So there you are covered 100%. And if anybody else has any questions, anything we've covered today that you'd like more information on, if you'd like to have a quote for you, obviously all of these are customized to some degree. We do have a set of standardized ones, but you can add stuff in if you particularly wanted. Obviously with the plug and play jobs, there's not really much we can add in terms of that, so they are pretty straightforward. But as you can see from our previous videos, we do a range of harnesses, anything UZ and JZ. So if you've got any questions, or you want any quotes, or you want to discuss any options, please feel free to firstly message our Facebook page, because we do have a dedicated person now to just answering messages and making sure that we try and get quotes out to you as quickly as we can. Please bear in mind that if you want something completely custom, that can take days to design and draw up on our harness design program, so you do have to bear with us if you want something completely custom. If it's something that we've already got designed and drawn up, we can usually just get you a quote out within a couple of days, no problem at all. All right. So if you have any questions, any comments, you can pop them down below. If you have any suggestions on videos you'd like to see, anything we've covered, or any issues that you may have with particular engines that you'd like us to go through, please feel free, comment below, send us a message, and we'll try and get videos done for you. But Stephen, let's get this all boxed up and get it off to you so you can get your car running. And to everybody else and Stephen, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.